Good evening, everyone. If you could please take your seats, we'll get started. Thank you for being here this evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:30. I'm Jeff Baker from Arapahoe County, and I'm the chair of DRCOG. So we have called the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we are going to go into the roll call. Ms. Stevens, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, here we go. Julie Duran-Mullica, Adams County. Kathy Henson, Adams County. Jeff Baker, Arapahoe County.
Here.
Claire Levy, Boulder County. Ashley Stolzman, Boulder County. Austin Ward, Broomfield. James Marsh, Holshin, Broomfield. Rebecca Lloyd, Clear Creek County. Adam Paul, Denver. Kevin Flynn, Denver. Kevin Van Winkle, Douglas County. Abe Layden, Douglas County. Susan Berriman, Gilpin County. Andy Kerr, Jefferson County. Rachel Zenzinger, Jefferson County. Sharon Davis, Arvada. Here. Allison Coombs, Aurora. Present. Larry Vittum, Bennett. Roy Spindell, Bennett. David Here. Spellman, Roy Spindell. Yeah, there you go, thank you. Went too fast, that's my fault. David Spellman, Blackhawk. Nicole Spear, Boulder. Greg Mills, Brighton. Here. Deborah Mulvey, Castle Pines. Jason Gray, Castle Rock. Tim Dietz, Castle Rock. Tammy Maurer, Centennial. Zane Plasek, Central City. Robert Eber, Cherry Hills Village. Susan McGuire, Cherry Hills Village. Steve Douglas, Commerce City. Susan Noble, Commerce City. Michelle Rogers, Dacono. Adam Moorhead, Dacono. Steve Conklin, Edgewater. Othaniel Sierra, Inglewood. Tim Wright, Inglewood. Emily Bayer, Erie. Linda Montoya, Federal Heights. Sarah Dawn Pearlstein, Federal Heights. Ray Bird, Firestone. Don Cognac, Firestone. Josie Cockrell, Foxfield. Wendy Padilla, Frederick. Georgia Kofed, Georgetown. Rachel Binkley, Glendale. Brian Toucher, Glendale. Lisa Vitry, Golden. Paul Hazeman, Golden. George Lance, Greenwood Village. Dave Kerber, Greenwood Village. Chuck Harmon, Idaho Springs. Brian Wong, Lafayette. David Friedland, Lafayette. Jeslyn Sherzai, Lakewood. Isabel Cruz, Lakewood. Here. Stephen Barr, Littleton. Here. Kat Bristow, Lockbuoy. Larry Strock, Lockbuoy. Marissa Harmon, Lone Tree. Alicia Brown, Lone Tree.
Online.
Thank you. Joan Peck, Longmont. Aaron Rodriguez, Longmont. Judy Kern, Louisville. Here. Holly Rogan, Lyons. Here. Pauline Whitlow, Meade.
Present.
Which I know
Thank
she's
you, Belinda.
on. There we go. No problem. Angela Bernhardt, Morrison. Here. Kathleen Bailey, Mountain View.
Here. Online.
Thank you. Nicole Sterling, Netherland. Here. Richard Kondo, North Glen.
Here.
John Dyack, Parker. Here. Terrence Kelly, Sheridan. Tara Biter Fleur, Sheridan. Lee Baronato, Silver Plume. Neil Shaw, Superior. Mike Foster, Superior. Justin Martinez, Thornton. Here. Sarah Nurmela, Westminster. Bud Starker, Wheat Ridge. Rachel Hulteen, Wheat Ridge. Darius Pakbaz, CDOT. Sally Chafee, CDOT. Bill Soroy, RTD. Here. All right, and we also have Mayor Steve Douglas joining us as well. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will hand it back to you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to just welcome our director from Georgetown to her first meeting. So there's Georgia Kofed. Is anyone else their first meeting with us? Yes. I'm sorry, I can't. Great, excellent. Thank you and welcome. Any alternates in present here? Oh. And Angela?
Yes.
And what's your last name?
Morrison.
Okay, great, welcome. No, it's the youngest DRCOG director. Yeah. They're an old hand right now, yeah.
Right.
All right. Mr. Rex, are there any changes to the agenda? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you,
Second.
Director Harmon, and we have multiple seconds, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. That motion passed. Our agenda has been approved. We're going to go to report of the chair, and I don't have anything to report, so we're going to go to report of the Performance and Engagement Committee. Director Kondo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say a few things. We did meet today, but before I get into what we talked about at Performance and Engagement, I feel like this is starting to become a family for me because I saw a number of directors from DRCOG at the lunch of Denver Metro Chamber State of Cities. So directors Duran Mullica, I saw there, Maurer, Mulvaney, Conklin, Kerber. I'm probably missing a few others, but Mayor Mills was there too. So you think about your professional career where you have your work husband or your work wife. I feel like DRCOG now has become my work. But again, it was great seeing you all, and sure I'll see more of you. Today, performance engagement met. We had a couple of informational briefings. One was a update on the award celebration, and I believe Director Rex, you're going to make a few comments. So I'll just say that that planning is ongoing, and that like last year, it will be at the Sewell Ballroom, which will be nice. And then finally, one action item, and that was to finalize the place where we want to do our peer visit, hopefully next spring. We had 3 finalist cities to consider: Austin, Phoenix, and Seattle. And I'm happy to report that the group has decided Seattle. With that, I'll turn that back over to you.
Thank you, Director Kondo. For report of the Finance and Budget Committee, the Chair, Director Sherazai, is not here tonight. So Executive Director Rex, can you give a brief update on the last F&B meeting?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So there was a number of contract resolutions that were signed. I'm looking at it 7, 8 contracts, and I certainly won't go into detail on those. But what I did want to mention to you all in the information item that we had a conversation about the DRCOG member contribution options. If you recall, those that were at the board retreat, we had a conversation about an option in which we would, I guess I should start out by saying the member contributions, or as you may know them as dues. I hate the term dues because we're not a trade association. We are you, right? So in order for us to do the work that we do here at DRCOG, we need about just over $2.1 million in cash match, right, for the programs that we have. That now is coming directly from member contributions, as well as other things that we do, our lobbying efforts and all that is not eligible, of course, for federal money. So we talked about a concept in which we would introduce a tip administrative fee, thereby reducing the amount of member contributions that you pay. So where there would be a static amount that you would pay as member contribution, and then more of an operational kind of as-you-play type of thing with the admin fee, right, on the tip dollars. So we had a good conversation about that. We're planning on bringing back another item to the Finance and Budget Committee next month to hopefully get a recommendation to share with you all in September. And so we wanted to get it out in front of you all. It's because I know you're in budgetary cycles right now, and we want to be as efficient as we can with the information that we provide to for your finance people. So, yeah, that was it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for filling in, Doug. I appreciate that. You're up next to the report of the Executive Director.
All right, thank you very much. And it's not going to be any surprise with what I'm going to talk about here this evening, and that's the 2025 award celebration. We're just over a month away, so August 27th at the Sewell Ballroom is what has been mentioned. And we're excited about this opportunity. The actual program will start at 7 o'clock. We'll also, what'd I say?
You said
7 p.m. So the,
Okay.
the social cocktail hour, will start, actually, I thought it was 5:30. Amber, is that not right? It is 6 o'clock? Okay, all right, at 6 o'clock. For those that were at last year's event, we have access to the same space for the cocktail hour that we did last time. I thought it was wonderful. No one seemed to be too jammed up there, so that's really good. So please remember to register. Board directors, we have less than 10 registered right now. And I know y'all are a lot like me, wait till the last minute to do stuff, but it makes Doug a little anxious. So if you wouldn't mind, yes, exactly. So please at your earliest convenience. So your registration is free. You can bring a guest for $49. We also know that there's a number of communities that have purchase tables or considering purchasing tables. And I would like to thank at this point, 10 communities that we have actually confirmed the pledge for a table, and that's the City of Boulder, City of Brighton, City of Centennial, City of Edgewater, City of Lafayette, City of Lakewood, City of Thornton, Town of Loch Bowie, North Glen, and Arapahoe County. So I want to thank you all so very much for that. And we do know we're talking with a few other communities as well. I am planning on sending out an email to the city county managers, just reminding them and thanking those that are on the list, and hopefully guilting the other ones into to getting a table. So stay tuned on that. So if they ask your opinion, please say yes to that. Also, listen, we also, we're honoring winners representing many communities across the region, including Longmont, Denver, Aurora, Douglas County, Arapahoe County, Boulder County, Littleton, Centennial, Lafayette, just to name a few. So we'll be particularly reaching out to those folks to make sure that that they have some representation at the event, so that we can properly give them their award, whatever. So other than that, please just sign up. And also with regards to corporate sponsorships, I want to thank a couple board directors who have really helped in getting to our corporate sponsorship up. Chair Baker, I want to thank you, sir, very much. Also want to thank Director Kondo and the work that he's doing right now, and Director Sherzai as well. So thank you all so very much. But if you have any leads or folks, you work with on a regular basis that you think might be interested in a good fit for this award celebration, please let me know. All right, I got a couple other things here real quick. So the Economic Development District Advisory Committee, or EDAC, had their first meeting on Monday. And if the board recalls, we are planning on submitting an application for an economic development district in this region, which will allow additional federal monies to flow in this region, or you communities to be eligible for federal money. And so we're working on that right now. I just wanted to report that at that meeting, the committee elected Director Justin Martinez as the chair and Director Jeslyn Sherzai as the vice chair. So congrats to you both. You get to work with me even more. You're welcome. All right, last but not least, housing assessment. Wouldn't be a board meeting without talking about housing assessment. So an email was sent out to the board members yesterday, city county managers and planning leadership within your communities, announcing the beginning of our 60-day public review of the regional housing needs assessment. So if your communities are interested in utilizing the regional assessment, there are materials on our website, on our regional housing needs assessment webpage. So please have a look at that if you're interested. We're also having conversations with your staff right now to understand what their plans are and to offer any support that we might be able to give. So if your staff have any questions at all related to this whole idea concept, please reach out to Sheila, and she will, if she can't answer, she'll direct you to the appropriate staff person. But it's a pretty unique opportunity for you to be able to use the regional assessment if you so desire. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rex. It's now time for public comment. Up to 45 minutes is allocated now for public comment, and each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. If there are any additional requests from the public to address the board, time will be allocated at the end of the meeting to complete public comment. The chair requests that there be no public comment on issues for which a prior public hearing has been held before this board. Consent and action items will begin immediately after the last speaker. Is there anyone here present in the room that would like to address this board? You can stand up, raise your hand, let me know you're here. I don't see anybody. Do we have anybody online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Mr. Randall Loeb joining us this evening for public comment. I'll go ahead and allow you to talk now, Randall.
Thank you very much, Melinda. Great
You're
to see
welcome.
you all, even though remote. You know about the big, beautiful bill. I'm sure it's going to affect your budget cycles. It is immigrants that made this country what it is and still do in your rural areas, and many of you represent them. The cutting off of Medicaid and many things dealing with other services, SNAP benefits, etc., are going to have a dire impact upon your communities and the people who live there over the next several years, perhaps permanently. There's facing a $1.some-odd trillion budget deficit as a result of the budget cuts. I was out at the ICE Detention Center on Monday. They meet there every Monday night. And Jeanette Viscara, who happens to be a colleague of mine who was in sanctuary in my church, is there, and her whole family is basically out there every Monday. I cannot emphasize how much we live in a time of like the outer limits, using that old program on TV. And if we don't figure out a way to protect and preserve our society, our social order, the people who actually pick the crops, we're in serious trouble. So I hope all of your city councils and all of your managers and all of the people that work in your vicinities are working arduously to try to figure out what we can do about it. By the way, I represent Denver County. I'm always working on the elections, as I will this year again, and I pray that we can get people out to the polls to vote because of the seriousness of it. Thank you for your time and attention, and as always, it's an honor to be with you, and I plan on being with you at the Sewell Ballroom.
Very good. Thank you, Randall. We appreciate your comments. Are there any other folks waiting to comment? Thank you very much. We will close public comment at this time, and we will move on to the consent agenda. I will note that there are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first one is the summary of the June 18th live meeting, and the second one is the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan update concerning the regional roadway system. And I hope you have had a chance to at least peruse that. Are there any questions or comments about the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. Have a motion? Second. And a second. Director Spear and Director Barr. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you. Our consent agenda has been approved. We have one action item tonight. This is discussion of the fiscal year 2024 Transportation Improvement Plan. improvement program, TIP second-year delays. This is attachment C in your packet, and we'll hear from Brad Williams, Planner, Transportation Planning and Operations. Good evening, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. We don't have a presentation tonight, but your agenda packet includes details on these projects and a letter from each sponsor providing additional information. This item pertains to TIP projects with federal fiscal year 2024 funding that were delayed for the first time in September of 2024 and continue to be delayed as of July 1st, 2025. We got a page break, but I hope it works for everyone. As outlined in our TIP policy, if the second-year delay is determined to be caused by the project sponsor itself, then the remaining reimbursed funding for that delayed phase is to be returned back to DRCOG for reprogramming. The sponsor may continue the project, but the DRCOG allocated funds for that delayed phase will not be available. The policy continues to state that if it's determined that the delay is due to the fault of another agency or an outside factor such as natural disasters, changes in law, or large inflation increases, the future course of action and/or penalty is to be determined by the board. Your action may range anywhere from the loss of funding of the delayed phase to an extension of time to initiate that delayed phase. Starting in January 2023, DRCOG has begun tracking the status of these projects through monthly updates with these project sponsors. And we're finally excited to see a significant reduction in delayed projects in both rate and raw numbers. Despite more workload for the local and regional agencies and recent funding uncertainties, increased staff knowledge has led to fewer delays. That said, DRCOG staff has reviewed the status of all of these projects that received a first-year delay in FY 2024 and determined that 6 continue to be delayed as of July 1st. So, the motion before you is to approve the staff recommendation to continue each project and establish deadlines for these projects. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions? Comments? I will say that Executive Director Rex mentioned that this is the smallest number of delayed projects that we can remember in a long time. They've typically been between 10 or even 15 to 20. So this is good. We were speculating on the reasons why this could be. But any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. So the motion before us is motion up. Yes,
I make the motion?
please.
I move to approve the staff recommendation to continue each project and establish deadlines for each sponsor's project.
Thank you, Director Flynn. Is there a second? Have a second. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much. That is the end of our action items. We have 3 informational briefings. The first one is attachment D in your packet. This is the DRCOG small area forecast, update on jurisdiction and agency feedback. And we're going to hear from Zach Feldman, Manager of Regional Planning and Development. Good evening, Zach.
Good evening, and just for clarification, I'm a manager in regional planning
Okay.
development, not of.
Gotcha.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to briefly bring everyone up to speed on where our forecasting is sitting now and how we've incorporated member agency feedback. There we go. So first, we will have a small discussion of what this forecast represents and how we use it. We'll go into a little bit of detail about the methods of our land use model, how we solicited and incorporated feedback, and then what this model will be used for in the coming years. As a bit of background, our small area forecast is a census block level forecast of households, housing, and employment. So we forecast from 2020 through 2050, and then we aggregate those up for different purposes. So census blocks, census block groups, census blocks, municipalities, transportation analysis zones. Two of the big use cases for this model are DRCOG's travel demand model, our focus model, and DRCOG's regional housing needs assessment. These are kind of base inputs to both of those deliverables. Importantly, we always make sure that we are coordinating with Colorado Department of Local Affairs, the State Demography Office, and tie our forecast to all of the forecasts coming out of that office. So population, households, employment, as well as age of head of households, number of younger adults, numbers of children, numbers of older adults. We keep this model tied to that at the county level. We use UrbanSim, which is an open source land use model, and it simulates many aspects of movement around the region of households. So households can move within the region, new households are placed, and they're placed differently based on income, presence of children, age, and then we have, again, similar sets of models estimated to place employment as well. So that varies by sector, whether it's manufacturing, retail, government jobs. These are all placed differently. And then crucially, we also incorporate the most up-to-date data on recent and near-term development. The kind of backbone of this model is really about setting capacities. So every census block, we use the existing zoning to estimate employment and housing capacity. And that really grounds the model as we kind of progress out through 2050. This region has over 1,900 zoning types, so it's not really possible to dig in and estimate from the code itself all of those types, but we do some estimation work, get pretty close, and then in shoulder cases where we seem to be off a bit, then we will dig into the code, look closer. We also then will solicit feedback from jurisdictions on those specific codes. We also make sure that undevelopable areas, open space, wetlands, parks, that we're not placing employment and housing there. And there are two really helpful subscription data sources, CoStar and Zonda, which give us really good data in the near term on multifamily development, office development, retail, and longer term information on single family developments, particularly in master plan communities. Last piece of this is local jurisdiction feedback. So local jurisdictions let us know areas that our forecast doesn't match up with their expectations. Crucially, with our model, we have what's called scheduled development. And unlike households and employment placed by the model itself, those are kind of estimated as to where they might land based on the characteristics in the region. Scheduled development, we manually place those. So if we know that a project is starting soon, or we know that something has recently been built, we can make sure that that lands there. So even though our model starts in 2020, we sort of have a 2024 kind of quasi base year because we've put in all of the data that lets us know where housing units and employment has landed. A bit of the timeline for this. So we shared an updated forecast with jurisdictions in January. So we accepted feedback from January 20th to February 21st. We had a webinar on January 27th to discuss this process. We also had office hours available and had one-on-one discussions with jurisdictions and agencies. Any jurisdictions that provided feedback, we sent them an email detailing how that was incorporated. We also had a follow-up webinar May 29th to share that updated forecast. So 12 jurisdictions provided 105 comments. That adjusted the capacities in almost 3,000 census blocks and added scheduled development projects, 170 of them. And these projects amounted to 6,000 or 7,000 housing units. So these were relatively large changes that we were able to incorporate. We were generally looking at either increasing or decreasing this future capacity to make sure it kind of matches with what jurisdictions were expecting. In general, when we adjust the capacity, doesn't mean it'll definitely get built in our model, but it raises that upper limit. And we're still ultimately constrained by what's coming out of the state demography office. So we're still constraining the model to the county level forecasts. And in general, we applied stronger changes, and particularly around scheduled development and putting those in manually if we know those projects have already started or if they are near to starting. So a couple of examples of where we had some missing data: hotel to apartment conversions, rehabs, demolitions. Those don't really show up in some of the subscription data sources we have very well. So those are kind of a couple of examples. But in general, we've had really good luck with having an idea of what's coming down the pipeline in this region. The data is available in a couple places. There's a census block group web map that's available at this link, which is also available from the web page for the smaller forecast on DRCOG's website, and the transportation analysis zone shape file, which is also used by consultants to run our focus travel model, is available on DRCOG's data catalog. How this is being integrated: currently, the regional housing needs assessment has already integrated the most recent version of this forecast. Regional transportation plan scenarios used the updated version, but the version that did not incorporate jurisdiction feedback because that process the feedback process wasn't done before the scenarios were being run. But all of the finalized air quality conformity major model runs for the regional transportation plan will include this most updated model. Thank you.
Questions? Director Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did go to the map and I was very confused. I chose to look at census blocks in my council district, and I was surprised that in my neighborhood, 348 households, all single family, all built out. We were expecting a growth of 61 more households. I couldn't imagine where they would go. Then on the other hand, Pinehurst Country Club, which is in my district, a decrease of 54 households. And Grant Ranch, which is in my district, partly, reduction of 8. How do you arrive at these numbers? I looked at a bunch of others. I just didn't want to write them all down. But Harvey Park, 30 households growing in one census block. How? The zoning is single family.
So a lot of this is going to depend on the estimates we're getting out of the zoning. So as we get to fewer and fewer units, like if we're looking at a So if we're looking at a parcel that it's going to be an apartment building, we kind of have a better idea of what that density could be looking at the zoning code. But if we're estimating it for a jurisdiction, particularly if it's primarily PUD zoning, we're really kind of stuck with looking at what has happened in the past and then extrapolating that to similarly zoned areas. So I'd have to look in specifically to those. What the estimated zoning is going to be a lot of it. And particularly if it's not very differentiated, that will also make a difference.
Okay, I imagine they're going to demolish 54 houses.
No, and the other thing to remember too is that we're really kind of talking about the scope and scale of where growth is landing. So 54 out of 500 might be a lot. 54 out of 1,000 is much fewer. So it also, we have to kind of focus in on how big of numbers we're looking at.
Okay, I'd like to explore more. Maybe I'll email you or I'll.
I think that'd be great. Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense to me that my single-family neighborhood already built out is going to grow by another 61.
Yeah.
But that can happen. Thank you.
Director Senzinger.
So I have a quick question about what does small area forecasting mean as it relates to geographic area? Are these like individual components of multiple municipalities? Is it municipalities in their entirety for like an area? Or like what exactly are we talking about here?
Yeah, so we've kind of landed on small area forecasts in the last few years. Used to be called more socioeconomic forecasting, but that was also harder to gauge what it really meant. So what we're talking about with small area is a very small geography. So in this case, an actual census block is kind of the unit of measurement or unit of modeling. And every other geography, so counties, municipalities, transportation analysis zones, we're just aggregating up from those individual census blocks.
And so do those extend over all of our jurisdictions or only primarily in a concentrated area or?
They're everywhere, and basically anywhere where you've got kind of roads encircling an area is going to turn into a census block when they kind of redo the census blocks at every decennial census. Where we run into more trouble are large, undeveloped areas that we know master plan communities are planned. We could have census blocks that are 10,000 acres, just because there's no roads that are kind of cutting that up at this point.
And my last question, are there any distinguishing differences between municipalities and counties?
In our modeling, there are not. We're only modeling it at the census block, and we don't really have any focus on jurisdiction other than our estimates of underlying zoning. And the control totals, so it does matter. The control totals do hold everything together at the county level. And it's an important distinction because we don't make assumptions about what municipalities, what areas they will annex in the future. So there could be forecasted growth in an unincorporated area that in 2040 will actually be within a different municipality. So that's something to bear in mind for physically growing municipalities that we may be undercounting because we're not grabbing what they expect.
Thank you.
Director Martinez.
I just first want to say, I think you did a great job, Zach, explaining the model and some of the foundations behind it. I think I know what you've gone through there. But my question is about your comment with the 1,900 zoning districts that are inputs. You said that they were not mapped to actual zoning districts that the municipalities and jurisdictions have. Did I hear that right?
I may have misspoke or maybe misheard. What I meant was that we don't actually read the zoning code in all those cases. We do estimate it and map it to the portions of a census block. So our GIS team actually gives us a big layer where every little tiny piece of every part of the region has the zoning tied to it distinctly.
So they're not actual zoning districts that our jurisdictions have. How might they differ? Like, what do these zoning inputs entail? Like,
so what we do is we start with a pretty broad estimation process. So we basically look at every little portion of a census block through the entire region, how many of them are zoned a certain type, and then we look at the density in every one of those little tiny pieces. So if it's R1 in a certain district, a certain municipality, we'll look at all the areas that are R1 and we see how historically, how dense that has become. And we look at the distribution across all of those areas, and we take the 80th percentile as fairly representative of an upper bound. And then we apply that 80th percentile to all of that zoning type to get us pretty close. And then from there, we look at areas that don't have, if they're mostly empty, that doesn't help us. So we do more digging in those. If there's only a couple, maybe there's only 3 or 4 parcels that are zoned a certain type, that's not going to help us much from kind of an estimation standpoint. So we'll look at those more carefully. Also, if a jurisdiction lets us know that a couple areas seem to be under or overbuilt, if we see that it's mostly one zoning type, then we can go back and adjust that across the whole municipality.
Thanks, Zach. And my last question is fairly simple. Do you know if Thornton was one of the 12 jurisdictions that gave you feedback?
Yes, they were.
Okay. I want to make sure so I can go talk to them about this.
Other questions? Comments? Thank you, Zach. We're going to go on to the next item under informational briefings. This is attachment E in your packet, the active transportation plan. We have Aaron Valeri, planner with transportation planning and operations. Good evening, Aaron.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening. So my name is Aaron Villery. I'm the Senior Active Transportation Planner at DRCOG. I'm in the Active and Emerging Mobility team, and I'm really excited to share an update about a major update to the Regional Active Transportation Plan. As with all of our planning work, this plan is of course guided by MetroVision, our regional plan. It also serves as a key support plan to the Regional Transportation Plan, and of course it aligns with all of our planning work. But I wanted to call out that it is very interconnected with our Regional Vision Zero plan and our Regional Complete Streets Toolkit especially. This is a major update to our active transportation plan last adopted in 2019, which was our first active transportation plan for the region, and we have been working on it for a little bit over a year now. So just wanted to take you through what we've been up to since the last time I had the chance to speak to this board. So we kicked off last summer, and over about the past 14 months, we've been working incrementally, deeply with our Active Transportation Plan Advisory Group, which is made up of member government and partner agency staff, to develop all the different pieces of the plan, as well as doing some targeted engagement with different groups and community partners to develop each of the legs of the Regional Active Transportation Network, and a couple important supplementary documents that I want to just take you through and give you a little preview of, and just to give you a look ahead while we're here. So we are, the reason that I'm here tonight is we're preparing to go to comment period for the public draft, hopefully by the end of the month, and then on track for a fall adoption cycle is our goal. So I wanted to share a little bit about just what's in the plan and how we're hoping that it can be applied throughout the region and what the major components of it are. So first of all, the plan, we really wanted to make this a very actionable resource for DRCOG and for all of our local governments and partners throughout the region. So the first part of the plan is really about making the case for active transportation, by which we mean walking, bicycling, and other micromobility vehicles. So this includes everything from scooters to, vehicles, people who use assistive mobility devices, so really anything that is human-powered. And so we wanted to provide some resources just to help you all in your work understand some of the recent trends and changes in the last 6 years to the active transportation landscape. It's been a sea change in the landscape. So to talk about some of why it's important to the region, what have been some of those big changes, and to kind of put together some of the case-making tools around it. The sort of next piece of the plan is really framed around universal access to walking. So this is the walking component of the plan, and it's really framed around accessibility and completing the regional pedestrian network. The next section of the plan is around a complete and connected bicycling network, and so we're really focusing on traditional bicycles, but also all of those new micromobility devices, and trying to capture all the things that have changed in that sector of the mobility system, and to put together some tools to help adapt and transform. And then finally, the policy and program recommendations is really where the rubber hits the road. These are the recommendations for DRCOG to take action over the next 5 to 10 years and really implement them. So the crux of the Regional Active Transportation Plan is, of course, this. This is the draft Regional Active Transportation Network. We call it the three-legged stool. And it's really built around, and don't worry, I'll show you a zoomed-in view of this because it's hard to take in when we're looking at the whole region. But it's really built around these three components, which is the pedestrian focus areas, the short trip opportunity zones, and the regional active transportation corridors. And this is the same structure that was used in the current plan, the 2019 active transportation plan, but we've made some updates and revisions to reflect all that's changed. And so really I wanted to zoom in and just sort of show how the regional network is intended to be applied. And so to show a place where we have a lot of interjurisdictional boundaries, and there's been a lot of action, especially in the last few years, to just sort of give you an illustration about how each leg of the stool fits together. So the pedestrian focus areas are the first leg of the stool. That is the area that you see in yellow with the dashed outlines. And these were really built, this is the first leg, and this is really meant to identify and hopefully unlock investment and effort to make walking universally accessible, where we think we can get the most return on investment for pedestrian network enhancements. And so this is using things like socioeconomic factors, demographic factors. We use things like children and older adults, zero-car households within different geographies. We also use things like job density. One of the major revisions was RTD has, of course, a system optimization plan, so trying to reflect where those investments in frequent transit are coming or are being made, as well as, those are the major pieces of it. I know I'm blanking on something, but really using creating an index of all those factors, and then also doing a lot of consultation with local government partners to understand, that local knowledge that we can't always capture in data. And so this was developed to create this first piece of pedestrian focus areas. Next up is the short trip opportunity zones. This is really built using our regional travel model, and where we see the highest concentration of trips that are 2 miles or less by any mode of transportation, sort of where we see the opportunity to, if there is a complete and connected active transportation network, within a small area where we think there's opportunity to shift trips to either walking or bicycling, where those active modes are going to be as fast and efficient as any mode of transportation, and where we've seen through our sort of survey and past engagement work, where a lot of people are interested in active transportation, but where infrastructure or some other factor might be a barrier. So where do we think we can unlock opportunities for those short trips that are really advantageous, either walking or bicycling or scootering? And then finally, the last leg of the stool, at least within our plan, is the regional active transportation corridors. And so these are regionally significant corridors for walking or bicycling. We really built on the existing network for this piece, but we focused on thinking about how to densify it by context. So a lot of the previous active transportation corridors in the 2019 plan have actually been built, which is very exciting. And so we wanted to focus on how to create a more consistent grid spacing throughout the region. So by different contexts, you know, urban has a denser, will have a denser active transportation system than, say, more rural areas, just because of the kinds of travel activities we see. And so really trying to create a more consistent transportation system so it can extend access to everyone in the region, and review some of those recent changes. And then, of course, the last piece, which is kind of where this plan interacts with local planning, is local bike and pedestrian networks. And so I want to call out that Denver and the city of Lakewood and Jefferson County and all these places have completed major modal plan updates in the last few years. And so this plan is really meant to interlock and support those plans. Not every plan that's in a local network is going to be reflected in our regional plan, of course, but we're really trying to capture what are the core routes, what are the major places that we can support those local networks and create a resource that people working, you know, boots on the ground in different local jurisdictions have some regional tie-in and have a framework to talk about facilities that cross jurisdictional boundaries, to work with partners, to think about major routes. And so this is really meant to support and help guide some of those local planning efforts. Additionally, the plan itself is quite focused, but we are also using the opportunity, something that we've heard in feedback from this group as well as from RTC and other folks we engaged with, is just how much change has happened in the last 6 years, that there's, of course, are interested and maybe concerned about, you know, emerging mobility devices, different types of incentives or travel patterns. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic changed how we all think about travel. And so we just wanted to respond to some of those emerging trends and concerns and challenges. And so we developed two major supplements to the active transportation plan itself. First, it's called a sidewalk delivery guide. And this is really focused on providing guidance about how DRCOG and its partners can accelerate completion of the region's walking network. It's meant to sort of leverage new standards and guidance, such as the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines that the Access Board adopted in 2023 to think about how do you create universal access in the pedestrian system. We wanted to focus on things like project delivery and construction methods to provide some guidance from lessons learned around the region to really help folks accelerate completion of that walking network. And then the second piece is called Building a Better Bicycle Plus program, which is really taking emerging national guidance, such as the new AASHTO Bicycle Guide, the new NACTO Urban Bikeway Design Guide, changes in the practice, especially around the region. Denver has a bikeway design manual that they've adopted. There have just been so many innovations in the past 6 years that we wanted to build on those products and provide some supplementary guidance around things like conflicts between different types of users, accommodating larger bicycles or e-bikes on trails and on-street facilities that, you know, might be moving a little faster than traditional acoustic bicycles. And then operations and maintenance is also a big thing that came up. We are a four-season region. And so trying to address some of those gaps national guidance and kind of fill it in and address some of those challenges that we. So those will be coming as well as supplements to the plan. So our action item, and the reason that I wanted to make sure to get on the radar, is we are coming up on our public draft review period. So the plan is due for public comment in the second half of this month. We're really aiming for the end of July at this point. But what we're going to be doing is pushing this out to all of our partners, pushing this out to community partners, your local governments. We're excited to partner with you all. We're going to be doing lots of engagement. The sort of central hub for the public draft is our engagement website, which is engaged.drcog.org/ATP, Active Transportation Plan. And really, we're going to be focused on connecting with different groups who have specific insights into using the active transportation system. We want to do some really targeted engagement during this period. We're going to be working with our stakeholder advisory group of local governments, staff and partners. We're going to be working with our community advisory group. We worked with our Way to Go team to share out some information during Bike to Work Day, but we're really looking for your help and everybody's help getting the word out, making sure that that your key partners and stakeholders have a chance to review the plan, to provide us lots of comments, and that we can strengthen it and put together the best plan that we possibly can for hopeful adoption this fall. So with that, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, Director Spear.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I just have a couple of questions. One is, do you have a specific date for when the engagement will begin, or is it just whenever you can? It's
yeah. So if I had to guess, I would say that we're going to be out for the entire month of August. It really depends on how quickly we can accessibility remediation on the product. This is, we've learning a lot, as has everybody, about meeting the statewide accessibility standard. But we're going to hope to have the plan up by the end of July, and then I think we're going to have. I think our plan is to have it open until the end of August, until August 31st. That's a nice round date. So.
Thank you. And then my other question was just around accessibility, and especially folks who are using mobility assistive devices. And how does that, where does that fit in? Is that sort of more aligned with the sidewalks and the walking, or is that more with the bicycle?
Definitely more on the, we considered it in the framework of the plan more on the pedestrian side. We, specifically people using wheelchairs and mobility assisted devices tend to move more at the speed of pedestrians. So that's really where we framed it. However, it interacts with every piece of the work. So I would say the most concrete guidance is going to exist in the sidewalk delivery guide. However, it informs the development of our policy and program recommendations. It informed the development of the network, certainly. And then just kind of a note to think about is often you see people who use devices in bikeway because that's the most comfortable space to operate. That's the most accessible space in the street. So certainly in the Bicycle Plus guide, we're keeping that in mind as well. That's certainly like an explicit call out is think about those different speeds and operational. So it was a really guiding core element to the plan.
Director Kondo and then Director Barr.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I was just really intrigued by your second to last slide about better bicycle program. So not really a question, but more just informational. I did the mobility e-bike tour during CML. I don't know if you're familiar with Breckenridge's Rec E-Ride program. And just, I'll thumbnail it briefly for you all. It's 30 hub stations, 170 some bikes. And basically, the residents of Breckenridge can pay $50 subscription fee. Obviously, you can't ride all year round, but at least for 7 of the 12 months, you have unlimited rides, and you have to start from one hub station and end at another. So this is a little bit different than, say, Bird or Lime, where you have, you know, scooters just kind of lying around randomly. My question is, are you familiar with that program, or if not, certainly I'm more than happy to share information so you could consider that as you're developing this program.
Absolutely. With Breckenridge's specific program, I wouldn't say I'm super familiar. You know, I've certainly spent time in Breckenridge. One thing I will say is that something that's been happening in parallel, and I believe it's posted publicly online now, is our shared micromobility report for the region, which does address more explicitly those types of systems, whether it's a station-based system, like I think there are a couple mountain communities, like Avon, I know, has a pretty similar. It addresses some of those. The only station-based system I believe we have in the region, Boulder, the beef portion of their system, but as well as some of the dockless systems. So our plan doesn't touch the shared micromobility as much because we have that sort of parallel shared micromobility program and benchmarking that we do. That said, we certainly consulted with our emerging mobility planner, and you know, just wanted to make sure that the right information went into. So we tried to keep those a little bit separate if talking.
Okay. Director Barr.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. I've actually, while you were presenting, I was sending this on to one of our community activist groups that's very strong in promoting these kinds of active transportation and safe transportation plans. So thank you for putting this out there. I also know that this group wants to engage more than once. And I know the presentation you're making is the initial public comment period, but can you maybe expand upon, are there any other points of engagement that you see between when the plan is adopted and throughout its implementation period? Do you plan to do annual reviews or anything of that nature, gatherings of these kinds of groups?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say that the most direct place that it's going to come down is in the policy and program recommendations. So, short answer is yes. We'd love to continue engaging with the community organizations and advocacy groups. They're so central to advancing the work. Some things that we're interested in doing, or that we're planning to do, proposing to do, are regular benchmarking of the region-wide network, benchmarking of things like percentage of TIP projects. You know, this is stuff that actually already happens, right? But just, you know, having this in a more publicly friendly way, benchmarking, you know, TIP projects that go towards active transportation. What are some of the investments? We want to get into a more regular cycle around safety and crashes. That's a big one that we really want to get continue to focus on. So there are a lot of recommendations like that. There are other things like working with our Way to Go partners around, you know, year-round promotion and education and encouragement programs. Way to Go program has such awesome partnerships throughout the region, and so building on that great work and really working with our local government partners to just make sure to engage with those important community members. So the short answer is yes, would love to continue that work and to connect folks, you know, throughout the implementation cycle of the plan.
Any other questions for Aaron? Yes, Director Maurer.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. With your presentation. When you're reaching out next month, I'm thinking you're reaching out to jurisdictions and you're going to be asking questions. Are you needing them to be prepared on what each agency has done, what they're doing, and what their future plans are, and the way that they look at this components? Just so I can go back and say, be ready for Aaron.
Yeah, definitely tell them to be ready. That'd be great. So we've actually, so the Plan Advisory Group, and it might be helpful to talk about that. So we really like, don't mind me going back to this slide. We've really been trying to engage pretty proactively with especially local staff throughout the entire plan, and have had, I think, 7 pretty major meetings, you know, and then a lot of sort of more individual touch points throughout the plan cycle. But I wanted to show this slide because what this really shows is this is Lakewood's bike plan that I think was just adopted in June, if I'm not mistaken, right next to Denver's bike plan, which was, I believe, adopted in May. And we worked really closely with those jurisdictions, especially as we did with, this is because their plans are so fresh, to really make sure that that the regional network coincided really well with what their local planning was. And it was also an opportunity to talk about, if they have a bike lane that's crossing jurisdictional boundaries and those aren't matched, we could, we sort of had the opportunity to force the conversation to kind of improve those interjurisdictional ties. But I would say to the question of what engagement are we looking for, we're going to be reaching out to certainly the Plan Advisory Group, to PIOs that we have in our distribution network, to different committees at DRCOG, to our Community Advisory Group that we've shared information with during the plan. And we're really looking, we're kind of starting with like a share kit approach, which is, have a plan summary and sort of a brief package of information that we can share out with folks that they can share, because we sort of think that that's going to get the best, both public dispersion of information, but also kind of bring people in and invite them to comment on the plan. So it's really the twofold piece of we want your help spreading the plan around and making sure that people know that it's out there, but also making sure that staff are very aware and different stakeholders within your jurisdiction have the opportunity to comment. So,
Director Cruz.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentations of all of us too, and also I'm excited for Lakewood to be featured on this slide. And I'm very proud of the bike plan that we just to Jenny Gritton and our staff for all the work that she put into that. So for the sidewalk delivery guide, you mentioned a couple of themes. I just wanted to see if two, I know that have come up in our conversations, were in there. I mean, obviously, like the elephant in the room on sidewalk delivery is funding, right? And so I think just curious if there's any, pieces in there about how jurisdictions can think about how to maximize dollars in different places on how we get our sidewalks, because I know that that's a huge barrier for us. And then I'd say the second piece that we've heard, particularly from our public works folks, right, is the construction timeline, like just how much construction we can have in the city at one time, how that also impacts people's mobility. And so I'm just curious if those are something that I can look forward to in this.
Yes, definitely more in the funding side. Yeah, so one of the things that we really wanted to do, and we were a little bit inspired by the question 308, the Denver Deserves Sidewalks ballot initiative, as part of this, which is an innovative funding mechanism. But we also wanted to just capture, what are some of the different options, and so we worked to develop some case studies about cities in Colorado, but also nationally, just to try to understand what's the scope like of options. So some opportunities around, special improvement districts, different like bond and tax types of measures, some things that, you are going to be aware of, and then some things that are hopefully, might spark some new ideas. So we definitely spent a lot of time on thinking about funding, and then construction. I don't know that we answered that specific question about sequencing construction. We tried to benchmark how much people are building across jurisdictions, just to kind of get a sense of what the current scope and scale of it is. And, something that we heard a lot is just how expensive everything is. So I think that's the real cap right now on capacity, is rising cost of materials, rising cost of labor, limited contractor availability. So just trying to capture and benchmark and sort of create that conversation. I mean, one of the biggest values, certainly in a planning process like this, is just getting all the different jurisdictions together to have those conversations and some lessons shared. So those are the kinds of things that you'll see.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Aaron. Next item up on our agenda is the RTD Annual Fast Tracks Report, attachment F in your packet. We have Cole Nieder, planner, transportation planning and operations.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Cole Nieder. I'm DRCOG Senior Transit Planner. I'm here to introduce Susan Wood, Program Manager with RTD. She's going to be presenting an annual update on the status of the RTD Fast Tracks program, which is per the requirements of DRCOG's resolution number 14, dated September 18th, 2013. I will turn it over to her this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. As Cole said, I'm Susan Wood with RTD, and I'm here to provide an overview and kind of a summary approach to a report that was in your packet tonight, which is the annual report, the RTD annual report to DRCOG on Fast Tracks. So we've actually been preparing these reports since 2004, the inception of Fast Tracks. Pursuant to Senate Bill 208, which was like a 1990s Senate bill that required annual reporting. Since 2014, though, we prepared reports pursuant to a DRCOG resolution that was passed in 2013, I think Resolution 10. It's really a status report. And there are specific items that are included in the status report, which includes status of the Fast Tracks projects, each of them, also Fast Track's financial information, and then other things that have come up during the year or ongoing during the year that would be of interest regarding the Fast Tracks program. In this case, that's really the Fast Tracks Unfinished Corridors report or Finishing Fast Tracks report, and then just an update sort of on the Northwest Rail Peak Service Study. This table is in your report. This is a listing of all the Fast Tracks projects and what the status of those projects are. The most recent project to be completed was in September of 2020, and that's the North Metro Rail to 124th Avenue, and that's been in revenue service since that time. One thing I do want to call attention to is the free Metro ride, which was completed in 2014. It's almost a little funny to read how this is written, but it was suspended in 2020 because of COVID, and the no need to run the service at that point in time when things came to a halt. It was reinstated in 2024, and then ultimately later in the year suspended again because of the downtown rail replacement project that was underway. But what this doesn't say is that it was restarted again in May of this year, past the time this report was done, and it currently is running from 6 to 9 in the mornings, and then from 3 to 6 in the evenings on weekdays. So one of the other items that's always included and important to include in the annual report or update is a statement of finances. And so, again, this table is also in your report. And actually, one thing I do need to call attention to is on the left side, these are the expenditures through 2024 for all the Fast Tracks projects. And on the right-hand side is the total project budget for each of the Fast Tracks project. And then at the end of those columns, they're totaled up. There is an error. The column on the left says spent through 2021. That should say spent through 2024. The correct one is actually in your report, but this number just didn't get changed for the PowerPoint.
Sorry, I need to interrupt for just a second. I understand that the folks online are not able to see your presentation.
Oh, okay.
So I will refer them to the packet of information, and they can follow along there. They may not have that in front of them right now, but it is available to you. We're not sure what's causing the presentation not to be seen by the folks online, But, again, refer them to the packet. It is included in our packet.
And what I will add is that the table that I was just referring to is titled Fast Tracks Program Expenditures and Budget through December 31st, 2024. And that is in the report, as it appears on the screen, except for that wrong date. Thanks. Also included in the report, there are several attachments. One of them is the 2025-2029 Fast Tracks 5-year financial forecast, and I would invite you, if you haven't already, to take a look at that. That shows a projected and forecast revenues and expenditures from, again, 2025 to 2029. That information was provided and was put together by RTD's finance department. What they used to put that together was the 2024 budget, as well as the 2025-2029 5-year financial forecast for RTD. It's really with both of these, both of the 5-year financial forecast for RTD and the Fast Tracks 5-year financial forecast, these aren't an appropriation of funds. It's really, again, a forecast. For both, balances are planned with expenditures and anticipated funding. Both are planned to allow service to grow over time, really consistent with the system optimization plan that was part of Reimagine RTD. And both include funding to provide, to maintain assets in a state of good repair. And that includes things like the Downtown Rail Replacement Project and others that we've all heard of and know are underway. The other thing that's included with regard to RTD finances is an accounting of the Fast Tracks Internal Savings Account, or FISA. This was created by the RTD board in 2012 and was initiated in 2013 with the intended use to have a place to house funds, to collect funds to be used on the unfinished Fast Tracks corridors. Also, along in the board report that's in your packet, there is a table that lists the revenues and the sources of funding for the FISA, and worthwhile definitely taking a look at. These funds have grown over time, and they're forecast to grow over time. What's included in your packet shows a growth through 2040, or it shows the picture through 2040, and that includes growth. It is planned that the RTD board will consider and take action at some future date regarding these funds. Again, they have been growing over time. They're forecast to continue to grow, and the board will consider how to treat these and what to do with these in the future. Also included in the attachment to the packet are 8 sources that were identified to contribute to the FISA. And it also includes a total to date of what's in the FISA, the net, and that's $191,600,000, with a forecast total through 2040 of $526,835,000. I did mention the couple of items that are also addressed in the report that are just items of real interest over the past year of the reporting period, which this is, of course, the reporting period for 2024. One of those I don't have a slide for is the Northwest Rail Peak Service Study. That was completed in 2024, and so it's included in this as well. But what's been ongoing is continued work with Front Range Passenger Rail and that group to try to find a way to accelerate and to implement both of those projects. Finishing Fast Tracks report is something that came about to address where we are with Fast Tracks and where to go in the future. What's on the screen here, we probably all well know, but it's that Fast Tracks was approved by the voters in 2004. And between 2004 and 2020, I think this is something that's sometimes lost, is RTD has completed 75% of the program. And the table that we looked at early on also shows that. What's remaining is completion of the second phase of Northwest Rail from Westminster to Longmont, completion of North Metro from 124th to 136th, the Southwest Corridor Extension, and the Central Corridor Extension. And they remain in the Fast Tracks plan. So there is a report that has been requested, been required by Senate Bill 24-230, and it's been underway as far as being prepared, and that's the finishing fast tracks report. As required by Senate Bill 24-230, that report was due July the 1st, and the report is largely prepared. But since that time, in the most recent legislative session, Senate Bill 25-161 was passed. It includes some additional items to be included in the report, actually some additional items for RTD to accomplish and complete as well. But it also extends that time frame for submitting the finishing fast tracks report to December in order to add the additional requirements. So that's underway as well. And the report will be submitted prior to the December 2025 deadline. And with that, I will stop. I'm happy to answer questions. Bill Soroy is also here and can answer questions as well.
Questions? Director Mulvey.
Hi, I'm one of DRCOG's representatives for Front Range Passenger Rail. I don't want to speak out of turn, but there was an IGA that was voted upon by various participating entities. It does involve what you just reported on potentially, and I wonder if you're in a position to share that with the board. I don't want to speak out of turn as mentioned.
Oh, I appreciate that. And in fact, I became aware of that today. I believe there was a press release that was made by Front Range Passenger Rail. And what it says is that the Front Range Passenger Rail District is a significant advancement toward passenger rail service for Colorado's Front Range. And it says on June 27th, the board adopted an intergovernmental agreement to establish the Joint Service Executive Oversight Committee, which includes Front Range Passenger Rail, CDOT, RTD, the Clean Transit Enterprise, the Colorado Transportation Investment Office, and the Governor's Office. And it authorizes the partners to jointly develop a near-term passenger rail starter service from Denver to Fort Collins, referred to as joint service. So good work, and the work continues. And please, if you have additional that you would like to add, I yield the floor.
No, I wasn't meaning to usurp your report. I just didn't know whether or not you were prepared to mention any of the fast tracks or FISA participation at this time. I know things are developing.
I think things are developing, and I don't have that information at this time, but we can certainly work on where we go from here. So,
Director Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Susan. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You would think I would know this, but what accounts for the total project budget for the completed projects? I'm looking at Eagle, which, you know, I worked on, $2.362 billion through 2024, but the total project budget is $2.869 billion. What does that delta represent?
You know, we received grant funds, and then there were local funds for the project. And I would invite Bill to please join in on this too, if I misstate or don't tell the total story.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Susan, but a number of the other projects also have. I didn't mean to pick on Eagle just because I worked on it, but other projects also show additional spending, even though they've been completed.
They do. You're right. And then there's some like West Corridor that have been completed for many years that are exactly the same number. There are budgets that still remain in some of the projects, some things that are being completed. There are some additional work on Eagle that has to be completed due to things that were recognized post-completion of the project. You know, at some point in time, that will be, well, we're working toward that now. But as soon as that is done, then those funds will be able to be released, either back to the federal funds or if they're local funds. I'm not exactly sure where they go. I assume back into the bigger pool. But each project, this question has come up before, so I'm really at a little bit of a loss. Each project is a little bit different. Each has different items, either things that have not been completed or things that have been changed, and so there's budget that remains. And at some point in time, either those budgets will go back to the federal government or will be incorporated into a larger pool.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Director Soroy.
I was just gonna, just to add to Susan, there are projects and there are little things that are left. And some of those, I mean, I know with US 36 as an example, I know that we have some things remaining that we have promised to do that we're still working on. So I do think some of that is in those numbers as well.
Director Kern.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the update. Being from Louisville, so the northern region, you know, we've been supporting Fast Track since 2004 pretty heavily. Our population seems to be predominantly in favor of public transit, specifically trains, but we've been getting a lot of feedback lately, begging RTD to improve 36 transportation to Denver to pre-COVID levels. Is there any option or any idea that that might happen? And we can reassure these community members that continue to vote yes to support RTD and as well as the tax measures that they will have improved service on even things you currently are providing.
I turn this one to Bill.
Sure. One thing I can say, I think with the upcoming service change, I know there's improvements to the Flatiron Flyer. So we are reinstituting, I think, the FF4 and adding some service to the FF2, I believe. So we are moving in that direction. I think, you know, with the system optimization plan that we adopted in 2022, you know, we had a certain level of service identified. It's not the level of service we had pre-COVID. I think the service total kind of wise is about 85% of where we are pre-COVID. We are almost there. We're not there yet. The opportunity, though, is we are going to be doing what I'm calling is a new SOP, or we're changing the name to a COA, a Comprehensive Operations Analysis, that will start next year, that will look at kind of the next 5 years. So from 2028 to 2032, what is the service going to look like in that time frame? So there will be an opportunity to kind of go beyond what we had set in the system optimization plan, which was less than we had pre-COVID, to kind of continue to grow and hopefully grow well beyond where we were at pre-COVID.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you so much for your presentation, Sue.
Thank you.
All right. We are down to informational items. Draw your attention to the administrative modifications and take a look at that at your leisure. We'll go into committee reports. I'm requesting that these reports be brief, reflect decisions made, and information that's germane to the business of DRCOG. Some we're going to skip because I've been told there is no report. So we're going to go to report from Metro Mayor's Caucus and Director Conklin.
Thank you very much. And there's really not much of a report. We have not met as a full caucus since our last report. I would share, though, that we've had committee meetings such as the Transportation and Mobility Committee. We've also got a number of activities. Metro Mayors are going to be involved in the mile-long table event coming up on July 26th. And then August 1st, we'll be joining Mayor Rogan in Lyons, and we're very excited about that. And that completes my sketchy report.
Very good. Thank you for that. We have a report on the Metro Area County Commissioners, otherwise known as MAC, from Executive Director Rex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. The MAC met, had this regular meeting on June 20th. And the only item was a discussion about their regional priorities for the 25-26 year. They're hoping to identify up to 3 potential Metro-wide actions for collective focus. And I think that is going to be finished up at the August meeting.
Very much. Report from E470 Authority, Deborah Mulvey.
2 items. The Transportation Safety Foundation had its fundraiser and also gave out a number of awards to deserving organizations, more than normal. And then also today we received some news of positive developments for the toll plazas that are going to be installed, which will have EV chargers, gas stations, and food.
Thank you very much. Report from CDOT, Director Pakbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not much to report from Commission. Fairly light day with budget and a report about winter maintenance, since we're in the middle of summer. I do want to note that the new commissioners have been seated. So from District 4, which is Boulder and Adams County, is Elise Jones. From District 3, I believe, is Arapahoe and Douglas County, it is Juan Marcano. And I think it's District 9, so correct me if I don't know if I got the number right, but it is Southwest Colorado. It is Barbara McLaughlin. We are still waiting on District 1, which is Denver. But we'll see about when that gets filled. But they did take their seats earlier today, and they'll be at the their first commission meeting tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Report from RTD, Director Saroy.
Thank you, Chair. A couple things. One, an update on the downtown rail reconstruction project. Many of you remember last summer we had construction in downtown to replace some track in the central corridor in the center of downtown. There is going to be a continuation of that project. We will be doing a second phase, second phases of that. The first part of that will be this August with the Calumet. There will be a closing of that Calumet crossing, which is by Auraria, for a brief period to get that replaced. And then a larger piece of the reconstruction of the entire 2-mile segment of the central line between Auraria and Welton will be starting sometime next year. And then that will conclude sometime, I believe, in 2027. So be aware of that. Also, a couple things. We did recently have some good news on our customer and community feedback. We do an annual survey, and we were very pleased to see that we went up in almost every area, ranging from customer service to light rail to various other things. So we were very pleased with that. On the employee side, again, also went up. So again, very, very pleased. And I mentioned this earlier, but we have an August service change that is coming up. Again, positive news in terms of increased service. Some of the routes that are being increased, I mentioned before, the FF2 to Boulder, as well as the reintroduction of the FF4, the 135 in Smoky Hill, and then some other routes are being reconfigured all throughout kind of the system. And with that, I think that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Make a note that the next meeting is August 20th, and I'll open it up to other matters by members, and I'll recognize Director Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I'm going to share some bad news with the group of a champion that we just found lost yesterday, and that was former Mayor Marjorie Sloan, who was a great advocate for regionalism, former chair of the Metro Mayor's Caucus, RTD director, an incredible human being who amazing things, was always quiet in stature, and from unbuckling the Beltway to creating projects within. So just found that out. I wanted to share that with the group. There'll be more. Certainly saddened by that news.
Thank you. Appreciate it, even though it's sad news.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so if we find out any information about services or anything like that, we'll be sure to share it out to everybody.
Any other matters by any of the members for the good of the order? Parking, make sure you pick up your parking. Do not go out these doors to the west. You can't get back in. So please go out these side doors to the east and follow the narrow corridor around. If you parked down in the basement, you'll, down in the lower levels, you'll be able to get to that parking through that way. Don't forget to pick up your parking ticket. Get out of jail free card. Thank you. We are adjourned.